into sports. What was the initial emotion like? Was there resistance? And how has everything changed in today's space? So today's a really, really interesting episode. My name's Toya Singh. Let's take a look quickly at the headlines.
After 6 postponements, Axiom 4 mission takes off for the International Space Station. Will dock today at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time.
And then, as we promised, we take a look at the evolution of sports tech in India. So we start with looking at early sports tech, how it took root in cricket. Also on the show, we take you behind one of India's biggest fitness communities, how they were built and where they are today. We talk all about how tech made fitness a daily habit, the pros and if there are any cons.
Kailash Yatra returns after 5 years. The local admin is on high alert. The route has been sanitized, mapped, and medical camps have been set up. Our colleague from CNN News 18, he has reached the base camp there, and we'll be bringing you some ground reports.
And then the wildlife fighter with a camera, our person of interest today, Aishwarya Sridhar, documenting nature-defying power. She is fearless in the wild spaces of India. Her photos stopped a wetland from disappearing, and we talk about that story.
After 6 delays, the Axiom 4 mission successfully launched into space with a diverse and accomplished international crew aboard. Now, from conducting groundbreaking experiments to strengthening India's presence in human space exploration, Subhanshu Shukla's journey is truly inspiring. He's the India representative, the ISRO representative, part of that mission, remember.
We'll also be exploring the significance of Axiom 4's mission. What does it mean for the future of space exploration? Why is it so important? Why have we been talking so much about it? Let's take a closer look at this incredible mission.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff.
For 3 nations, a new chapter in space takes flight. Godspeed AX4.
A new chapter in Space Odyssey has human spaceflight. In his maiden flight to the ISS, Subhanshu Shukla has made history as the first Indian astronaut to travel to space in over 40 years, following Rakesh Sharma's iconic mission aboard a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft in 1984. With more than 16 years of experience as a fighter pilot, Shukla has accumulated over 2,000 hours of flying time. In addition to piloting the spacecraft, Shukla is set to conduct 7 groundbreaking experiments for India, focusing on muscle regeneration, diabetes, plant biology, Voyager tardigrades, microalgae growth, and human-computer interaction in microgravity. Subhanshu Shukla is also preparing for India's first human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan, which is slated for launch in the first half of 2027. His participation in the Axiom 4 mission marks an important step towards this milestone, further strengthening India's presence in the realm of human space exploration. Axiom 4 is a groundbreaking mission conducted by Axiom Space in partnership with NASA and SpaceX. This mission is the 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. The crew is aboard a newly launched SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, propelled by the company's Falcon 9 rocket on its way to the orbiting laboratory. Axiom 4 marks a new era in space exploration, showcasing the ability of private companies to successfully coordinate complex international crewed missions in collaboration with NASA, ensuring both safety and valuable scientific returns.
All right, so that was all about the Axiom mission, and we will be witnessing their actually entering the ISS around 4:30 p.m. today. But let's move on from that and take a look at all the other tech stuff that's happening here on Earth. Now, remember the 90s performance, the performance data there became India's sort of cricket second coach. From stats became graphics, and long before India embraced AI-powered athlete tracking, it was during that time when Indian coaching still relied on instinct and memory. But there was one man who was building an indigenous tech engine to change that long before sports tech actually even became a phrase. We are talking about Diinesh Kumble. Diinesh Kumble decided India didn't need to import sports tech from the West. We need something that was made in India.
And he built it all from scratch. There was a team of software engineers that was hired. We're taking you way back to the 90s with our next story and bringing you someone who was one of the first, the very pioneers of bringing tech that analyzed sports performance into India. He was one of the minds behind India's first sports analytics companies, and his team developed in-house tech essentially to help cricketers understand their own mistakes in real time, show audiences who are watching back home all of the data, all the statistics, the moment that the cricketer had hit the ball with his bat, instant player analysis and more. Let's bring him on and ask him his story.
All right, so he's no longer in the game, but the game still owes him quite a bit. Joining us now live is Diinesh Kumble. Hi, good morning, sir. Thank you so much for sparing the time. And
good morning, Sohan, and good morning to her. It was such a lovely introduction. I think I'm a little honored by that introduction. Thank you.
Honored we are to have you here and have you share all your anecdotes with our audiences. We were looking at sports tech today and health tech on the whole, and we couldn't think of a better person to actually sort of decode this with. To start with, could you take us on the journey of how it started for you? What triggered the thought that this was the need of the hour?
Thank you, first of all, for thinking about me and for having me on the show. I mean, that's, I think, a lovely gesture from you. Well, I think, the real sports software technology that we started was in the mid-90s. I was doing my engineering in, actually my master's in engineering in America, and I was a big sports buff. We were all big sports buff in the family. I mean, that's how it started. And I would watch every sport, though I did not understand NFL at that time, the National Football League or the American League, and the NBA. And what actually inspired me the most was in 93 or 1993 or 1994, there was an ad in one of the newspapers where Pat Riley was the coach of the New York Knicks, I think, in the early 90s. He was earlier Lakers coach. He was one of these distinguished coaches of basketball coaches in America. And there was this beautiful picture. It was a very simple ad by IBM, I think, for the ThinkPad, and it was just Pat Riley sitting on the floor with a ThinkPad with a pointer pen, and then he was sketching his notes. And till that time, I think all the notes were either mental, or they would have a small little notebook, and they would make let's say analysis of maybe faults and the gains in the game, the players' performance for a particular game, the periods that they were tired, the periods that they performed the best, the players, even in those 30 minutes or 15 minutes, and they were all mental or maybe with small notes. And then here was this coach who was bringing in some technology, bringing in a pad, bringing in analytical software, and I was thinking, and I'm not a software engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, but then I was thinking, oh wow, this is something interesting. And when I decided to come back to India, the 96 World Cup, the 1996 World Cup was in India, and that was one of the biggest World Cups ever held during that time. Because after we won the World Cup in 1983, I'm talking about the Cricket World Cup, the 96, we said, okay, now this is where maybe technology is required. And that's when we started a company, me and a very elderly gentleman in those days, I mean, at least a little older than me, in the 90s, and I was still brimming with ideas and had a lot of stuff. When everybody was talking about software and they were doing other stuff where they were probably talking to American clients and European clients to get software work going. It was more of a database and all. We were trying to do something with sports, and the first thing that we did was, it'll be great to collate all the information about the Cricket World Cup from 1975 onwards, and then put them on a floppy drive. And we tried to sell the floppy drives. We were selling 2 floppy drives. There were 2 things. On the first floppy drive, there was a lot of data from 1975 to 1996, which one could access and say, oh, what happened in 1979 World Cup? What happened when India won the World Cup in 1983? And I'm talking cricket here. So that was the interest, right? Because India cricket and the World Cup was happening in India, and the teams were doing well. So everybody expected India to win. So it was like one of those big hype events. And 1996, I mean, this is really a long time ago now, if you think about it. But that's how we started. And then after that, I worked with this super gentleman, because he was a cricket buff. He's a cricket buff and a great, like a software developer or a technical artist, or a technocrat. So I spoke to him, and then we came together and started a company then. So in 1997, early 1998, we were the first ones to actually go and make a demo of a cricket software to the cricket board in Kolkata, when Mr. Dalmia was the president of the board, or maybe the secretary of the board. So it was like, I mean, the first reaction that Mr. Dalmia gave then was, he told us after the presentation, he had only one question, and he asked us, and I was the young one, right? I mean, and in those days. So I was like, he asked me the first question. He said, will your computer, he didn't say analytics, data, nothing. We were doing it on a borrowed laptop or whatever. And he said, will your computer make us win the test series in West Indies? I think the Indians were headed for West Indies.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
That's the only thing.
So I said, sir, but at the end of the day, it's your players who have to play. Yeah. I don't know what to do, So I can only help them with some kind of analysis. So that's how it started in 1997. We were really early birds. I don't think any Indian company was really talking about sports and sports software, because sports was still a recreation then. A little bit of a professional game, but mostly recreation.
So, Dinesh, tell us this. Today we're in 2025. It's been more than 20 years since what you created, and then all the development that's come after that. I just want to understand from you. Today, when a batsman hits a ball, there is an immediate data that will come up, and it will show how the other balls have been hit. It'll also show where that ball will possibly land on the field. And you've also talked in the past about how bats may be able to immediately, we'll now have technologized bats. And I just want to understand from you, when one asks you this question, is it a cricketer playing a human being, or are we going slowly towards human tech? Humanoids almost, because you're making your bat into a robot, you're making your ball into a machinized robot that is also analyzing data. Do you ever think, where's the line? Where do we need to stop, keep it, just pure ball and bat? How does one decide that balance?
Can I give you an analogy to it? I mean, see, when the phones came in, everybody thought it was a great communicator, right? And then when the smartphones came, they started telling that the humans will become dumber. Right? I mean, it's not so. So we've become, and really, if you give the smartphone to a child, it'll use it better than I can. So if you really look at it, it's going to be the same analogy when it comes to the same thing, right? I mean, you can give a player or a sport or a game any kind of data, anything that brings in any tool. But ultimately, it's the skill of that particular individual, the dedication, the determination, the practice that has gone into it, the sacrifices that have gone into it, which will be the real human story, which will finally develop. And I think that you will never make, I don't think you will ever make a sports person a humanoid. Then it'll become a video game. Okay, which again we did something in 1999 and 2000 and 2003 and all that. We did human. Let's say we didn't make a humanoid, but we kind of made them graphical caricatures of the cricketers and started playing our own World Cup. Okay, I mean on the screens. And in fact, in 2001 or two, we even had an inter-school tournament, a World Cup, a Cyber World Cup. We called it Cyber World Cup. Okay, so it was like, it's something. So we can't really have that. But today we can do it. I mean, I can do a Cyber World Cup because it's easy. I'll have every individual has a smartphone, they have a laptop or access to one. And then it's so easy to play them, on the World Cup. I'm not talking about just selecting a team, but really, really playing as though you are a player amongst the teams. So I would think that you can never take the skill out of a human, whatever tool you give them.
Yeah.
So that final skill, it's a fine tuning of that skill. Yes, I mean you need to. If you give somebody a normal bat, you know how they'll bat. But if you start giving them a tech bat, for example, they'll adapt to that. That is the versatility of a human brain.
But Mr. Kumble, can I ask you this very quickly because we have last few minutes left? How
Yeah.
reliant are the best sports athletes in the world now on data? How much do they rely?
They rely a lot. When we started out, I think they would rely on it maybe 5%, 10%. There's a little bit of an aversion then, mainly because everybody then thought that, their flaws would be exposed. What is happening now is, though the flaws get exposed, now they're looking at how do I correct my errors or my flaws? How do I reduce my mistakes? How do I not repeat my mistakes? So the thinking has changed.
Yeah.
And that thinking, I think, is what is making a sports person or anybody related with sport get hooked on to technology, because they cannot now leave out technology. And the accessibility of it, it's widely accessed. It's easily adaptable. It's adopted now much more than what
I think that analogy
earlier.
is great, where you say that earlier they were scared because you don't know, the magic is somehow exposed, but now they sort of embrace it to say how we can do better. I think that's a great way to sort of understand that as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumble, for joining us and sharing all those anecdotes.
Thanks,
And good
it's
luck.
been a pleasure. Thank you so
And
much.
good luck
Thank
with
you, and all the best
everything,
to
that
you.
you're doing
It was very
in
good.
Sports
Thank you
Tech,
so
yeah.
much. Thank you.
You can really see the impact of sports tech and just how large the data analyst
Yes.
team has gotten for the
Yeah.
Indian
Yeah.
cricket team, and just
And even
what-
IPL, largely because of that.
Yeah. But let's move on from this now. Tech isn't just for helping incredible athletes like those that we see in the IPL, like those that we see on the national team. It's also about changing how everyday Indians, you, I, train, we eat, we stay fit. You have AI-powered workout plans, virtual coaches, app-based community support. The fitness industry today has gone digital, and it is no longer just for tier 1.
Now, one of the biggest shifts that has been democratized is on the access. You no longer need a fancy gym or a personal trainer to build a discipline structure or results. When you can talk about scale, space, there is a platform that often comes up to mind, and one such is going to join us on the program today. You must have heard of Fitter now. It is one of the largest growing fitness communities in the country, and joining us today is JC. Everybody knows him. From Nas Daily to the Zerodha brothers to everybody else, he's got an impact on them all. But it's not the only thing that he does. He also has now developed a product and has a ring that gives you access to your sleep, how that's going, your steps that you take, your heart rate, all of it. But JC, I can't introduce your product better. You have to first tell us, how reliant are you yourself on a fitness ring or fitness products, and how many of them do you have? I'm really fascinated to know.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Really good to be here. So I wear my ring all the time, as you can see. The whole philosophy is that India needs to move from a curative healthcare ecosystem to a preventive healthcare system. That's one of the ways in which we can save lives before it's too late. And most of the lifestyle disorders, if you see, if you look at the last year stats and the years before, you see that most of the deaths which are happening globally are now largely due to NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases, are primarily linked to your lifestyle. So when we talk about lifestyle, there are four basic things that come into mind. You have motion, nutrition, hydration, and rest, which is 7 to 8 hours of sleep, which nobody's getting. 10 to 20,000 steps plus some exercise, which again, not many people in India are doing. Nutrition, which is like enough protein, good macros and micros, and enough amount of water, right? So everything can be linked to these basic things. Now, over a period of time, because we continue to neglect these things, the damages accumulate, and then, we don't go to the doctor unless it's too late. The fact is that all of these issues can be checked much earlier, can be fixed much earlier, and so that's basically the preventive ecosystem that we're talking about here.
So how does tech marry into this?
Well, first thing is that tech can let you know if there's something really wrong with you, which is your lifestyle. Like you can't really, sometimes people feel that they're sleeping enough and the quality of their sleep is good, but it's not really. I mean, you need both your REM sleep as well as your deep sleep. And people don't know how much they're sleeping. They think they're lying in bed and they assume that they're sleeping well, but that's not the truth. Your deep sleep can, unveil a lot of things about your physical damage. Your REM sleep can unveil a lot about your mental damage. Then how much is your physical strain as in response to any kind of activity can also reveal a lot about your cardiovascular health. Your VO2 max can, which is one of the single most important predictor of longevity, can also reveal about your overall health. So you have a lot of these metrics, and of course HRV. So all of these metrics in real time, when you see this data, you understand how your day is going, and what are some of the things that you need to optimize for.
I want to understand, can you talk to us a little bit about the fitness community aspect of all of this? Is it true that this started out on WhatsApp and has now become an app over the years? Walk us through that, and also tell us what are the differences you see in how, if any differences, in how Tier 3, Tier 2, Tier 1 use the community aspect of all of this?
Right. So we are a community. We, of course, started over a small WhatsApp group where I personally used to train some 200 people for free. And then we moved to Facebook, and, God had other plans. One thing
Led to another.
Led to another. And now we are a global community. We have like 6 million plus people in 102 plus countries. See, the benefit of being in a community is like everybody is looking forward to one thing. Today, we have so much of misinformation, and we have so much of disconnect on different things, and fitness rarely becomes part of mainstream conversation, right? So when you have a community which is talking about health, which is talking about staying fit and healthy, it kind of brings fitness back to priority. Because if you ask someone, hey, why don't you work out? They'd say, I don't have time. The problem is, it's not time. You always have time for things you care about. Fitness just takes a backseat. So we as a community, try and bring back fitness back to the front seat. That's the main purpose behind the community. The community also kind of encourages people. So it's a judgment-free community. So we don't judge people. We don't expect everybody to be on the same level. We understand that people, when they're starting out their journeys, I mean, I started my journey as a very unfit person. So we understand that when anybody is starting out, they need a helping hand rather than judgmental eyes. And so that's what this community is all about.
Can I, JC, then go back to health tech a little bit? Today there is an app or a device available to monitor practically everything in your body. You can have a glucometer. If you are obsessing over glucose spikes, you can have a ring, you can have a watch, you can have other devices in your shoe that tell you your pace of running, what's happening with that. So there is just no end to this. But how much of this is obsessive? I heard someone saying that, I don't wear my ring anymore because it gives me, I'm obsessing over not getting sleep more than actually resting. So a lot of this data can be, counterproductive as well. Do you have a way to sort of bring that harmony of tech and life?
Right. So look, people obsess over different kind of numbers, and not everybody is comfortable with all sorts of numbers. But there's merit to having data. Like how much, one must ask question. Do they look at their bank account, see how much money they have in the bank account left? Do they get worried after they look at the numbers? If they get worried, that's because that matters. If you one fine day check your salary and it's not credited, obviously you're gonna get worried. And so you take
So
the
what
actions.
should
The
worry us
other way-
about our health? What should be the balance sheet that we are maintaining? What parameters should we look at?
So what one needs to understand is you don't need to worry about day-to-day changes. What you need to worry about is the trend. If you had nights of sleep, it's perfectly fine. If you had less activity one day, that's perfectly fine. But see the trend. What's your monthly average? What's your weekly average? And then can you improve that? And it's not like a bad kind of worry. You're worried, that's okay, and then you have something that you can fix. Otherwise, if you don't want to look at the data and you're like, okay, everything's gonna be fine, I'm just gonna pray to God. It's like driving a car with a blindfold on. It works till it works, until it doesn't. So I mean, data is not really the problem. It's the mindset. Sometimes when people are like, hey, but my parents didn't track this and they lived till 80, 90, well, those times were different.
Yeah.
These times are different. I think helping track anything that can be improved should be. We just have to change the mindset from optimizing it every single minute, every single day to moving over to trends.
Sure. Just everybody doesn't have to be Brian Johnson, I guess. We can all find moderation in life.
Yeah, that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. That's not healthy.
Yeah. Okay. Jitendra, thank you. Thank you also for just that last sort of admonishment of the way in which Brian Johnson lives, but also just for bringing us that clarity that everyday data doesn't matter. It's really the long-term data that matters, and it's beautiful to see what your community is doing and just how you're changing millions of people's lives across the entire world. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. On that note, we're going to slip into a quick break. Coming up on the other side, we've got another very interesting guest joining us. She is a wildlife fighter and with a camera in hand. What exactly is Aishwarya Sridhar doing? Not just documenting life and documenting nature, but actually fighting for it. Coming up in a moment from now.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And staying with the NATO summit, Ukrainian President Zelensky has met US President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Zelensky has said that both covered all important issues, namely how to achieve a ceasefire and a real peace. He said, and I quote, "We appreciate the attention and the readiness to help bring peace closer." That is the pitch that's come in from Zelensky. In the wake of that visual on your screen, that was the Oval Office fiasco where Donald Trump put Zelensky on the mat, saying that he didn't have all the cards when it came to dealing with Russia. Even though Russia is the aggressor in the entire conflict, Donald Trump scolding Zelensky over there for his statement saying that Russia was the aggressor, and Russia has not adhered to several conventions between Ukraine as well as the Kremlin, saying that any kind of agreement that Putin has agreed to, Russia has not abided by that, given the security ramifications in the region. But during this meeting, he's given a very positive note about any progress that the US can help Ukraine make in achieving a ceasefire. Akanksha continues to be with us on the broadcast. So Akanksha, a far cry from the tense situation in the Oval Office a few weeks back, but Zelensky also hoping that Trump can take the Russian theater of this conflict a bit more seriously, but it's easier said than done because the Putin regime is maintaining its own strategic agenda at the end of the day and is in no mood for a ceasefire. We've seen how those talks in the past have broken down between Ukraine and Russia.
Absolutely. And remember, when Zelensky met Trump at the NATO summit on the sidelines, the fact of the matter is that this is coming just days ahead of the BRICS summit in Brazil. And Putin, as reports are indicating, will be skipping the BRICS, as will be the Chinese President Xi Jinping. So it's interesting that it's coming just ahead of that BRICS summit. But more importantly, what we are learning that the NATO in itself has now decided to go ahead with higher spending, which means that this is also reflective of the concern that NATO has with regards to the entire prolonged conflict in Ukraine and the Russian president's own, the aggression that he's been showing. It doesn't seem like he's going to be coming down anytime soon. There's already the war in Gaza, and the current tensions between Israel and Iran are only going to bolster the axis of resistance, which, as we all know, is comprising Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. So NATO is concerned, which is why EU was having high-level delegation talks with Iran directly, Iran's foreign minister, Arakchi. And that is the primary concern that even Zelensky is now trying to capitalize on by addressing it to Donald Trump. As he's already highlighted that he had a fruitful meeting, there is a change in the tone and tenor of Zelensky, who till that White House face-off that he had with the U.S. president was, of course, he was seen as somebody who was aggressive, who was also equally frank and upfront with the U.S. president. But the autocratic nature of the U.S. president has certainly toned him down. But reportedly, this meeting between the U.S. president and the Ukrainian president lasted 50 minutes. It was a second attempt after Zelensky had failed to meet Trump earlier this month in Canada, when the U.S. president had to abruptly leave the G7 summit because of the conflict. And what we are learning is that Trump said that it is possible that Russian president has territorial ambitions beyond Ukraine, that he plans to speak to Putin soon about ending the war. Zelensky has noted that Moscow and Kiev have not moved any closer to a ceasefire, but he was confident after this meeting with Donald Trump, and he's already stated that in that tweet he shared on X, where he said that the outlines of the discussion shall follow suit.
Absolutely, but Trump has no cards to play with Putin when it comes to achieving that ceasefire, and the Putin regime knows that, and many say that Trump doesn't like to be on the losing side, but in this case the NATO allies are impressing upon Trump that he needs to support Ukraine, but at the same time Trump is not budging. And as you saw in the Oval Office fiasco, he was pretty much picking on Zelensky, even though he's not the aggressor of this entire conflict. Vladimir Putin is the aggressor, and Trump at the end of the day taking a shot at Zelensky for not being grateful. So the optics are not that encouraging when it comes to the situation for Ukraine, but the NATO allies trying to impress this on Donald Trump, even though he doesn't have many cards to play with Vladimir Putin. Akanksha, please stay with us, because shifting focus to the situation in West Asia, an early US intelligence assessment into US strikes reveals that the US military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program. The assessment, which has not been previously
Welcome back. You're watching The Breakfast Club. Let's now tell you a little bit about the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. It's one of the most revered pilgrimages in the world, and after a 5-year hiatus due to COVID-19, the pandemic, geopolitical tensions, this journey is finally set to resume from June 30th. Local admin in Uttarakhand's Pithoragarh district are on high alert. They're ensuring every detail is taken care of for the smooth, the safe conduct of pilgrimages. So right from sanitizing and mapping the route to setting up medical camps along it, authorities are leaving no stone unturned.
Now, in our first report from Mansarovar Base Camp, our correspondent Siddhant Mishra takes us through the significance of the sacred site and where pilgrims sort of traditionally write messages on their prayer flags, believing that the wind will carry their prayers all the way to God. Here's the report.
We are at the Kailash Mansarovar base camp. It has taken us 4 flights in 3 days to reach the base camp. First batch of pilgrims from India has already reached the base camp. This is the first time when Yatra has resumed after the gap of 5 years. The Kailash Mansarovar Yatra is restarting after 5-year break, initially suspended due to the pandemic and subsequently due to border tensions. The Ministry of External Affairs conducted a computerized draw to select 750 pilgrims from the online applications received. A total of 750 pilgrims will be participating in the Yatra. We're talking about the routes. Then this pilgrimage will be conducted via 2 routes, Lipu Lake and Nathula. 5 batches of 50 pilgrims each will travel via Lipu Lake. 10 batches of 50 pilgrims each will travel via Nathula. The Yatra is expected to run from June to August. The pilgrimage to Mount Kailash and Mansarovar Lake is religiously significant for Hindus, Jains and Buddhists. We are at a base camp in Mansarovar, and this base camp is 30 kilometers away from the holy mount. This camp has been prepared for the Yatris coming from India and various other places. In fact, first batch of Yatris from India have concluded their parikrama. They are resting right now, and from June till August there's going to be many more batches coming to Kailash Mansarovar for darshan. Now there has been a special arrangement which has been made for these Yatris. This entire premises, in fact there are rooms available. The rooms have been allocated to the Yatris. These are the rooms with all the basic amenities, proper bedding, proper toilets, etc. And there is also the tent system where I'm reporting from. So these tents have also been set up for the Yatris, so they can go and come back and rest here.
प्रोटोकॉल तो मैं यही बोलूँगी कि आपको वॉक करना है एवरीडे का, एंड माइंड को मजबूत रखना है, क्योंकि एवरीडे तुम्हें ऐसा ही लगेगा कि मैं स्टॉप कर दूं. एवरीडे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं ये यात्रा छोड़ के वापस गाड़ी बुलाऊं या तो घोड़ा बुला के मैं वापस अपने सागा में वापस पहुंच जाऊं. बट ओनली यू हैव टू मन से एकदम पक्का रहना चाहिए कि नहीं बाबा तेरी चरणों में मुझे आना है. ये एक चीज़ है. और प्रोटोकॉल ऐसा है कि हर रोज़ का तुम्हें 6 से 8 किलोमीटर चलना ही है, क्योंकि सिर्फ यहाँ पे चलना ही है और तुम्हें एल्टीट्यूड सिकनेस ना हो जाए उसके लिए ही ध्यान रखना है.
टोटल 20 दिन का है, करीब 20 दिन का है, और अनुभव बहुत ही अच्छा रहा हमारा. जो है दोनों गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से अरेंजमेंट अच्छा रहा. मतलब इंडिया गवर्नमेंट का तो था ही, यहाँ पर आने के बाद चाइना गवर्नमेंट का भी बहुत अच्छा अरेंजमेंट रहा.
ये जब यात्रा शुरू हुई तो सबसे पहले मेडिकल टेस्ट हुआ हमारा, और उसमें सिर्फ 13 महिलाएं जो हैं फर्स्ट बैच में आ पाई हैं इस बार. और हमारा यात्रा का अनुभव जो है वो काफ़ी अच्छा रहा. जब से हम आए हैं भारत सरकार और चीन की सरकार ने काफ़ी अच्छे अरेंजमेंट किए हुए हैं.
All right, moving on to our person of interest. She's made it to the world's biggest wildlife stages with her lens. Her work has influenced policy, earned international acclaim, and also put a spotlight on India's most threatened ecosystems.
Joining us live from our Mumbai studio this morning is someone who's not just documenting nature, she's defending it. She is a National Geographic explorer, a filmmaker, and award-winning photographer. Aishwarya Sridhar joins us this morning. Let's just go over to her. Hello, Aishwarya. So lovely to have you here on the show. Aishwarya, could we first ask you, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but it's relatively rare to have a young woman in the wildlife photography space. And so you must tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get into this? Initially, were you a little hesitant when you were in such spaces alone, or did you always have a family member with you? Tell us about it.
Thank you so much for making me a part of the show. So I actually started out as a very young kid. In fact, I grew up in the wilderness of Panvel in Mumbai, and right next to Mathiran, the foothills of Mathiran hill station. So I had wildlife in my own backyard, literally. So I used to have wild boars, fireflies in my balcony. So that's how, from a very early stage onwards, I literally fell in love with nature. And my daddy is a very big nature enthusiast as well. So he used to take me along on his wildlife trips, and each one led to another, and that's how slowly, I got interested into wildlife photography, and then he gifted me a camera for my 11th birthday, and the rest was history then.
Right. Off late, Aishwarya, we've interacted with so many photographers who are wildlife enthusiasts, or artists and cartoonists who are wildlife enthusiasts. There's this concept of green humor that we've decoded on the program as well. Does one lead to the other? I'm trying to understand that once you sort of surrender to the nature, do you then realize how important it is to nurture it? Or is it the other way around? The love for photography comes in first?
For me, actually, it was the love for nature that started off initially. And I actually wanted to, I was seeing the wildlife and the landscape around me transform. So initially, Panvel and the surrounding areas of Uran, where I used to go birding a lot with my daddy, that used to be a birder's heaven. But slowly, as I was growing up and also learning simultaneously about climate change and global warming, I was literally seeing the landscape around me change. So from being green, it started becoming brown, industries replaced mangroves, highways replaced forest tracks. And that's when I really felt I wanted to do something about this. And the only logical thing that I felt I could, have in my capacity and do is pick up the camera to tell stories of the wild. So that's why I picked up the camera. So I'm not someone who, was interested in photography and then turned to nature. I was deeply passionate about wildlife, about conservation, and then picked up my lens to document India's endangered, showcase it to the world to instill a love and sense of protection for our wildlife.
Aishwarya, right now on the screen we just played out one of your stunning visuals. I couldn't tell if it was a leopard or a cheetah, but it was a silhouette, that's why I couldn't tell, of one of these big cats in front of the moon. Can you just take our audience there? Tell us a little bit about what it's like to capture such a moment. Have you ever had any sort of brushes with danger while you're trying to capture these big cats? That's the photo.
So what you saw on screen was a leopard. It's that's the one. It's shot in Jawai, which is one of India's leopard hills. Rajasthan is very, very popular among big cats with regards to tigers and with regards to leopards. So I've been actually documenting leopards for a story in Rajasthan. Till now, fortunately, I have had no scary encounters. I feel that if you're able to respect wildlife, wildlife will respect you back as well. So it's all about giving that space and giving that respect to the subject. And as long as you know where to stop and not to intrude into your subject's personal space, you're very good.
Got it. We also heard a story, Aishwarya, about how one of your pictures brought about real life change. It actually changed the government mindset on one of the wetlands. Could you talk us through what exactly happened? I'm sure it's going to be of huge inspiration for others like you who are watching and perhaps wanting to bring similar change.
Definitely. So if you notice in Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, you have different clusters of wetlands basically. So especially Navi Mumbai has got, there used to be a coastal village known as Uran, where as a child I used to go birding pretty often. And one such wetland was the Panjay wetlands at Uran. Now, I think in 2018 or 17, I got to know from a local bird guide named Parag, with whom I used to go birding. He informed me that the Panjay wetlands were under threat and that, there's going to be very soon a development on that wetland, and the entire wetland was set to be reclaimed. Now, because I had a lot of childhood memories associated with that wetland, not only that, it's also a wetland of importance on the Central Asian Flyway. Over 2,500 fishermen depend on that wetland for their daily income and their livelihood. You have every year thousands of migratory birds coming in from Russia, Siberia, China, Europe to winter in these wetlands. So I knew for certain that this wetland had to be protected. But how could I protect and bring about a policy level change? So I turned to my camera. I had some videos that I had taken over the years, and I put together a very short documentary which aired on DD National in 2018. That was my first brush with storytelling on a larger scale in terms of wildlife filmmaking, because up until then I was only doing photography. And that film inspired a signature campaign. I also began working with local environmental organizations like Nat Connect, for example, who were really championing and fighting for these wetlands. So I gave my images to them as proof that there's this wetland which has got so many species of birds, and those images were GPS tagged as well, which proved the location. And today Panjay is listed in the National Wetland Decadal Change Atlas by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change.
That's incredible. Okay, Aishwarya, we were seeing, it's so funny. Anytime we see one of your big cats leaning, it's hard not to lean one's head as one is watching and just seeing the adorable cat. But I just want to ask you, walk us through what it's like to actually go out there and photograph these animals, these birds. Are you out there alone? I know birders sometimes go in groups. So are you out there alone on your own just for 8 hours, tracking the movements in a car? What is the actual process like?
So it depends and it varies. If I'm out there only for a photography assignment or just to capture one particular species in photo, then I'll probably be alone, or with my daddy. Sometimes as a kid I used to go out with him as well. But when I'm going out filming, then I definitely do have a team. I have a main camera person, I go behind the camera. If I'm required in front of the camera, then of course I'm on camera. And I have a team. I have a person who does sound. My daddy doubles up nowadays as a sound engineer as well. So it's like a family-run business.
But you also have to be quiet, I assume.
That's how
do you have sign language to communicate in the wild?
Yes.
Because you also can't make noises, right?
Absolutely. You cannot. You have to be, first of all, very quiet, very patient. You have to be willing to spend hours and hours waiting for your subject to appear, because nature appears at her own will. You can't force anything to happen in nature. You can't have any role in that. So you just sit and you wait quietly, you wait patiently. There are days I strike gold. There are days I come back empty-handed. But that's the way it is.
All right, Aishwarya Sridhar, here's hoping more gold days than empty-handed days for you. Here's hoping you're able to capture and bring about, not just with your work, bring that awareness to a larger audience, to policy change as well. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's move on from that now and take a look at the tourism industry in Jammu and Kashmir, which has faced a significant setback following a terrorist attack, the terrorist attack in Pahalgam actually. But now it's coming back to life slowly.
Ishan Wani gets us this report. This is a report from Pahalgam. Take a look.
The attack, which claimed the lives of 25 tourists and one local pony ride operator, led to widespread cancellations and a sharp decline in tourist arrivals. However, it has now sparked hope for a revival, courtesy heavy discounts and the introduction of Vande Bharat Express train service.
नहीं, डरने की तो कोई बात नहीं है. वी हैव फुल कॉन्फिडेंस ऑन आवर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, मोदी जी के ऊपर. मैं भी खुद उनके पूरे सिक्योरिटी पे भरोसा करती हूँ. सो ऐसा कोई डरने की बात तो है नहीं यहाँ पे. एंड एवरीथिंग इज़ क्वाइट नॉर्मल. और जिस तरह से इंतजामात हैं यहाँ पे, हर जगह मिलिट्री तैनात है और हाँ, तो इसीलिए इसमें कोई डरने की बात है नहीं. एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग फाइन. देयर इज नथिंग टू वरी एट ऑल.
Currently it was a good right now. Okay, right now we are moving back to the Sandhurst valleys. We are going. Each and everything is good as per the security concern. I'm very quite happy with all the security concerns.
To counter slump and lure tourists back, tourism-related businesses in Kashmir have introduced significant discounts and promotion offers, which includes 50% discounts on all tour packages.
हम शुक्रगुजार हैं मतलब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की, क्योंकि वो ग्राउंड लेवल पे उन्होंने अपने एहलकारों को भेजा है. यहाँ पे रविंदर रैना साहब आए, यहाँ पे मोहम्मद यूसुफ सोफी साहब आया है और गवर्नर साहब आए, भी जस्ट गवर्नर साहब आया है. उन्होंने जो ज़बान से बोला है ऑर्डर बिल्कुल सेम हमें वैसा लगा. उससे पहले भी कहीं मतलब सारे लोग यहाँ पे आए, मतलब बड़े सारे लोग आए. सब लोगों ने आश्वासन दिया है कि ये लोग यहाँ पे नॉर्मल सी हो जाएगी.
The introduction of Katra-Srinagar Vande Bharat Express has significantly enhanced accessibility and is seen as a game changer for tourism. The train to Kashmir is fully booked for the next 30 days. Airlines have also slashed fares to make air travel more affordable to Srinagar, with local communities in Kashmir warmly inviting tourists to visit, reassuring them with heartfelt hospitality and urging them not to let fear deter their travel plans.
Tourists are once again back in Kashmir. The fear has been defeated. We're in Pahalgam, and you would notice behind me many of them are enjoying their day out as they have come to Kashmir. There was palpable fear post Pahalgam attack, but that has now been defeated. There have been consolidated efforts by the government to ensure that the right messaging goes across as Kashmir is safe. And with the introduction of Vande Bharat train, it is helping bring that tourist to Kashmir, which was absent otherwise. And Vande Bharat is running full every day, and there are no tickets that you can get for the next 15 to 20 days, and beyond that also it's hard to get tickets. But you will see they're going on a ride on a horse, and they will be taken to different parts of Pahalgam, and this is the revival of tourism in Kashmir. Ishanwani from Pahalgam for CN News 18.
A future where...
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And staying with the NATO summit, Ukrainian President Zelensky has met US President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Zelensky has said that both covered all important issues, namely how to achieve a ceasefire and a real peace. He said, and I quote, "We appreciate the attention and the readiness to help bring peace closer." That is the pitch that's come in from Zelensky. In the wake of that visual on your screen, that was the Oval Office fiasco, where Donald Trump put Zelensky on the mat, saying that he didn't have all the cards when it came to dealing with Russia. Even though Russia is the aggressor in the entire conflict, Donald Trump scolding Zelensky over there for his statement saying that Russia was the aggressor, and Russia has not adhered to several conventions between Ukraine as well as the Kremlin, saying that any kind of agreement that Putin has agreed to, Russia has not abided by that, given the security ramifications in the region. But during this meeting, he's given a very positive note about any progress that the US can help Ukraine make in achieving a ceasefire. Akanksha continues to be with us on the broadcast. So Akanksha, a far cry from the tense situation in the Oval Office a few weeks back, but Zelensky also hoping that Trump can take the Russian theater of this conflict a bit more seriously. But it's easier said than done, because the Putin regime is maintaining its own strategic agenda at the end of the day and is in no mood for a ceasefire. We've seen how those talks in the past have broken down between Ukraine and Russia.
Absolutely. And remember, when Zelensky met Trump at the NATO summit on the sidelines, the fact of the matter is that this is coming just days ahead of the BRICS summit in Brazil. And Putin, as reports are indicating, will be skipping the BRICS, as will be the Chinese President Xi Jinping. So it's interesting that it's coming just ahead of that BRICS summit. But more importantly, what we are learning that the NATO in itself has now decided to go ahead with higher spending, which means that this is also reflective of the concern that NATO has with regards to the entire prolonged conflict in Ukraine and the Russian president's own, the aggression that he's been showing. It doesn't seem...
All right, next we bring you a special section on the financial markets. Let's take a look. The next section is powered by Money Control Pro. It's Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at markets. GIFT Nifty trends indicating a positive opening for Indian stock markets today. Asian equities were up today, aided by big gains in Japanese stocks. US stock markets ended mixed as traders assessed Fed Chief Powell's comments. Crude oil prices have also climbed slightly. This is as a decline in US crude stocks indicate a possible strong demand.
Let's look at the sector in focus this Thursday morning. The logistics sector is facing headwinds from a slowdown across infrastructure, building material and capital goods sector. The small load freight business is also impacted due to muted trade activity from micro, small and medium enterprises. However, the supply chain solutions are seeing healthy demand from the automotive sector as well as e-commerce. The logistics industry expects now monetary policy easing, income tax cuts and also increased government spending to accelerate trade activity in the second half of FY26. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's logistics sector and also various other actionable insights on the markets. It's a premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control.
All right, and with that, we are drawing our Thursday show to an end. Join us tomorrow, and remember, you can always tell us what it is that you want to see us cover on The Breakfast Club. We love building on ideas that you've sent us. Send us your thoughts, send us your feedback at CNN News 18 on X.
Until then, take care of yourself. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
A resounding response to terror. Showcased India's deadly capabilities. Now, top military minds will dissect India's strategic capabilities to seize the opportunity to become a global defense manufacturing powerhouse. CNN News 18 Town Hall. From borders to business, the strength of Bharat. June 28th, 3 p.m. onwards on CNN News 18. Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Staying with the NATO summit, Ukrainian President Zelensky has met US President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Zelensky has said that both covered all important issues, namely how to achieve a ceasefire and a real peace. He said, and I quote, "We appreciate the attention and the readiness to help bring peace closer." That is the pitch that's come in from Zelensky. In the wake of that visual on your screen, that was the Oval Office fiasco where Donald Trump put Zelensky on the mat, saying that he didn't have all the cards when it came to dealing with Russia. Even though Russia is the aggressor in the entire conflict, Donald Trump scolding Zelensky over there for his statement saying that Russia was the aggressor and Russia has not adhered to several conventions between Ukraine as well as the Kremlin, saying that any kind of agreement that Putin has agreed to, Russia